Alright, welcome back. Chapter 6, Video 1. Just like the first video of the year, I know you woke up today, you were excited. Second semester is going to begin, and you guys just cannot wait to get back and learn some more about U.S. history. But before we get to U.S. history, as always, joke of the day. So this one comes to you from Dawson Duchuk. What type of bagel flies? A plain bagel. So, as always, take it all in. But now we're going to get back to U.S. history. So we're going to start Chapter 6, Urban America, and I'm going to start doing this for our slides. Just kind of a little bit of a background about what this chapter is going to be about. You don't have to write this down, but basically Chapter 6 is going to be about urbanization and about immigration, mostly from Europe and from Asia, and how they're going to provide cheap labor to kind of help this idea of industrialization, which we talked about a lot last year. And really, urbanization is going to be a lot about growth of cities. So, first slide, talking about immigration. And this one, I'll tell you, you do not need to write this down, but it's a good idea. Just kind of have an idea in your head of how this is going to start to be changing. So, from 1865 to 1914, 25 million Europeans are going to immigrate to the United States. And it's going to start to have a little bit of a change here. And we kind of classify this time period from 1865, so we're talking about after Civil War, to 1914, which is going to be World War I. We kind of talk about America in that context with immigration. So, before 1890, most immigrants were from Northern and Western Europe. And this is going to be, Great Britain, France, Spain, really the countries that we've talked about before. And they're going to be a little bit more, I guess you would say, westernized. They're going to be a little bit more used to our culture. But after 1890, immigration is going to start to change a little bit. It's going to be where immigrants are mostly going to be from Southern and Eastern Europe, and also we're going to have Asia with China and Japan in there as well. So, I already mentioned those countries, but it's also going to include like Italy, Czechoslovakia, and kind of more of those Eastern European countries. But now we have to look at, why do people emigrate to the United States? So this is going to be kind of set up into two different tables here. On the left we have the push factors, and on the right we have the pull factors. And why people emigrate, why people come into our country, there's going to be a lot of different varieties for why people are going to want to move here. We've talked before, and I'm sure you've heard this phrase before, the American dream, which means many different things to just about every individual. But this time it's going to be classified into push and pull factors. Before we kind of get into what those are going to refer to, talk about push factors, these are going to be things that are already occurring in other countries. These are going to be pushing them into America. And the other one, this is going to be in America. This is going to be pulling. So kind of think about it. They're being pushed away for those reasons. They're being pulled in for the reasons that are going to be here in America. So talking about the push factors. The first one is going to have to do a lot with work. First one, farm poverty and worker uncertainty. A lot of countries, they're going through a recession. A lot of farms, thinking about more specifically like Ireland, the Irish potato famine, the farmers cannot make a living. People who work in factories cannot make a living. There's so much uncertainty, and if you don't have a job and you're living in a certain area, odds are you're going to probably move. So farm poverty, worker uncertainty is going to be the first thing that's going to be a push factor. Second one, we have wars and compulsory military service. Now those two go hand in hand. War, oftentimes, are going to need people to help and fight. The army is always going to need more and more people. Now compulsory military service, this is like a draft, which we'll talk a lot about when we talk about World War I and World War II and Vietnam. But basically forcing people to go and serve in some sector of the armed forces. Now, people are not always going to want to do this, so for that reason, compulsory military service is going to start to push them away. We also have political tyranny. Here in the United States, we have a democracy. Our Constitution is going to be based off of what the people want, and we're going to be able to vote for them. In a lot of other areas, you have a dictator, or you have just kind of one specific person who is going to be in charge, a monarch, and they're going to tell you what to do. So political tyranny, another thing that's going to start to push people away. Religious oppression. Religious oppression, a lot of people want to have the freedom to choose whatever religion you want to. That's going to be something that's guaranteed to us in our U.S. Constitution, but being forced to be told what your religion is also going to be another, you guessed it, push factor. And then population pressure. What population pressure is, that is too many people living in one specific area. And because there's too many people living in that one specific area, oftentimes population is going to start to be on the decline. And when I say it's going to be on the decline, that's mostly through death. So because of that reason, there's not enough food, there's not enough jobs, there's not enough resources, that population pressure, if it's not a safe place for you to live, again, you guessed it, we have another one of those push factors. And now to talk about the pull factors. So these are going to be things, again, that we have in the United States that are going to attract people, and again, keep using the hand movement, but to pull them here into our country. So the first one, plenty of land and plenty of work. So these are both things that we've already talked quite a bit about. Think about the Homestead Act in North Dakota and basically the entire Midwest. How for those $10 registration fee, remember I always say free, for that $10 registration fee, you get 160 acres of land, so you have plenty of land that's going to be available. You also have plenty of work with industrialization kind of being at a peak at this time. So plenty of land and plenty of work is going to pull people into the United States. You also have a higher standard of living, and what that is going to refer to here in the United States, we have a running water, we have shelter, we have heat, a lot of people have air conditioning, we have electricity. Not everywhere else has that in the world. So that higher standard of living is going to be one thing that is definitely going to start to pull people here into the United States. This next one goes kind of hand in hand with political tyranny. We have a democratic political system. We elect our leaders, we vote for them. If we don't like what they're doing, we can also vote to remove them from office. But the idea of having democracy here in the United States is also something that is going to start to pull people here. And then probably I would say the biggest and probably the most influential is you have the opportunity for social advancement. Think about Andrew Carnegie. He is going to be probably the prime example of this, of a person we've talked about before. He emigrated to the United States at a very young age. He got his first job at 12 years old. And from there, he just started getting higher and higher, more promotions and promotions. And eventually, he's one of the wealthiest men in America when he has Carnegie Steel. But you have the opportunity for social advancement. You're not just told, this is your job. You do this for the rest of your life. It's, I can quit my job, I can start my own business, I can get promotions, I can become the boss one day. Those are social advancements that are going to start to pull people into the United States. And then the last one, talking about the journey, we'll first start with Europe. So it took 14 days to cross the Atlantic in what was called steerage. Now this, again, talking about technology, think about the Revolutionary War time period where it took a couple of months. Now it's only going to take you 14 days. Now, most people are going to travel in what's known as steerage. Now, this is going to be the cheapest ticket that you can buy. Oftentimes, it's below deck. There's no lounges, no chairs. Basically, they're going to cram as many people they can into the bottom of the ship to get them to the United States. Now, once they get to the United States from Europe, they're going to go to Ellis Island. And now, once they go to Ellis Island, they're basically there for processing. And this is going to be another thing. You're going to kind of be shoved in. You're going to be standing in a line. And what you're going to mostly have to do is just pass a physical examination. Now, doctors are going to provide this examination. If you pass, you get to go along. You're going to enter America very shortly. However, if you fail, if there is some medical history that they are going to need to examine a little bit more, they're going to take you. They're going to take chalk and put a special color on you. And that means that you have to go and see a specialist. Now, while you have to wait for a specialist, you're basically taken, put into a cage, and told to wait for the doctor to come and re-examine you. Now, if you fail that physical examination, you're going to be sent back on a ship, and you're going to go across the Atlantic and back to Europe. Now, once people passed, oftentimes they went to what's known as ethnic enclaves. Now, what an ethnic enclave is, this is a community within the cities that provide immigrants with familiarities from their homeland. So basically, a lot of people from Poland or Germany, or if they were Jewish or Italian, they're all just going to kind of move to one specific area. And they do that because life for them is just going to be a little bit easier that way. Think about if you're in a foreign country. If you need help and you hear someone speaking English, I guarantee that's going to be the first person that you're going to go to. Now, that's going to be very true of ethnic enclaves. It's going to be kind of little communities within a bigger city to help people live, help people out. But really, one of the things that's always noted as one of the most important things that's going to help you get ahead is your ability to learn English. Because that's when you're going to be able to get a job. That's when you're going to be able to start to get those different promotions. So that's going to be the European side. Now talking about the side coming from Asia. Now, Chinese immigrants, we already talked about them, and they were brought over to help work and help build the railroad. And again, they were treated very poorly. They would not get a high salary. In fact, they would be paid next to nothing. Their lives were demeaning. just really horrible lives. They faced a lot of segregation, faced a lot of discrimination. After the railroad was built, they found it very difficult to find jobs, found it very difficult to find places to live. However, ethnic enclaves also helped them out quite a bit. Through that, there was a lot of people who were able to prosper because they said, oh, if we can't buy from a certain grocery store, let's just go build our own grocery store. Let's go build our own businesses. And from that, had a lot of different positives. Now, from 1900 to 1910, that is when Japan is also going to start to increase in immigration. And then in 1910, Angel Island is going to open. And this is going to open, it's very much like Ellis Island. However, the people are going to be there, I would say, for a lot longer. Because so many people were coming, it was so short-staffed. Basically, you had to go there, you had to pass a physical examination, and then you would have to have an immigration hearing. And oftentimes, these immigration hearings, they could last for a couple months. So think you are emigrating to the United States, you get to America, but now you're being told to wait inside this very small building until you finally have your immigration hearing. But once that was done, you were able to enter the United States.